Nerds. Well, it officially happened. I have skyrocketed past 5K. So you know what that means. It's time to put YouTuber in my LinkedIn bio and, well, quit my job. Maybe ExpressVPN will offer me a sponsorship. I guess I should probably check my AdSense first. Hold on. I may need to stay at my job for another 10 years at this rate. Regardless, I need to say thank you so much to my audience who have gotten me to this point. You guys have gotten me to 5K. We are skyrocketing way past 6K, and just to show my thankfulness, I wanted to review some of your resumes that you have so kindly provided for me to look at, because the focus of my channel is really about helping people grow in their careers, as well as providing just tons of insight in terms of data engineering, data science, and just developing and managing data workflows. Because at the end of the day, my goal is to grow the community, whether that be the community of data engineers and data scientists, or people who are interested in growing themselves in their careers, whether that be consulting or just professionally in general. That's really my focus. And so I wanted to say thank you to you guys by, again, just looking at your resumes, giving comments and feedback, and giving you my perspective in terms of what they look like and where I might make some changes. And it's really kind of cool. I got a broad range of resumes in terms of the fact that I got people from the beginning of their careers, starting as interns, all the way to kind of more senior and experienced people where they've been doing data and database development and data analytics for longer than I have. So it's really cool to see the broadness of this community. Also, it's great to see that we've been dealing with the same data problems for the last 20 years. Maybe we'll eventually get better at data engineering. Maybe. All that being said, let's dive into it. Also, just as a quick heads up, I really apologize for any names I mispronounce. I've been told I mispronounce my own last name. You know, it kind of sucks sometimes being born American and coming from a different country. And for some reason, you pick up how to say your name in the American way, and everyone thinks you have an American accent from now on. And you get made fun of by everyone in your community because you can't actually speak in the right accent. So I apologize in advance. I mispronounced my own last name, at least according to everyone else. All right, so first we have Annette. So they provided me their resume, and just kind of giving a quick look over. One, I think they've got a very pretty resume. It's very tight, very clean. I never know how to feel about very pretty resumes, only in the sense that, you know, a lot of this just goes through an ATS, which kind of just looks at your resume and looks for certain keywords. And I just hope that, you know, all the formatting doesn't get in the way. But overall, it looks very tight, very clean. So, you know, if I were more of a recruiter, you know, it's an impressive resume, at least again, from first glance and how it looks like. Enough about that. Let's dive into this resume. Just off the top of my head, just like looking at this when I first looked at this, I think they had a lot of cool experiences. Again, they worked at Liberty Mutual and CVS, which from a data standpoint, I imagine have some interesting data sources. You've clearly worked with a lot of cool tools, and I see that you've worked with Snowflake. Honestly, at this point, I feel like it's unfair. I'm just investing in Snowflake because of how many places I've seen people use Snowflake at different companies, including, it looks like you used it at Liberty Mutual. So, you know, it's a pretty big company, and if they're using it and all the other companies that I'm seeing use it exist that are using it, you know, I can only see their revenue growing increasingly. But let's focus on your stuff. Overall, it's clear that you've had a lot of technical experience. One thing I noticed on your resume is you don't really cover anything in terms of like the business impact. You have business objectives, which at first I was like, okay, this is cool. This is exactly what you need. But you don't really tell me what the outcome was from those business objectives. Like, what were the efficiencies that you created? Did you ever improve some sort of stored procedures or ETLs? Did you create some sort of model that helped reduce costs? Like, what did you do? And what was the reason that you were doing it? Not just technically, but like, what was the business impact? Especially once you start going to companies like Amazon, like that was something that caught me off guard, was they really wanted numbers, like how impactful was your work? So that's something that I'm really seeing lacking here, and you really could work on. You know, just tell me, how impactful was your work? Did it save time? Did it help automate processes? Did it help save money when you did a migration? Why did you do that migration? You must have done it for a reason, right? Like often you're either trying to save money or improve performance. So talk about that business reason. I got to get my hands off this desk. I keep realizing I'm shaking this entire camera. Thanks for dealing with that. Otherwise, honestly, this looks great. You've broken out technical skills, analytical skills, and you've clearly done a lot of different technical projects. It's just about adding in that business impact, because at the end of the day, that's really what companies should care about. Not just what you're technically good at, but why you're doing what you're doing. And honestly, you should care a little bit about why you're doing what you're doing. And that's something I'm still always learning. It's like sometimes I just want to do the technical thing, but you need to also care about the business impact. there's no point in putting tons of hours into work if it doesn't provide some sort of efficiencies or decrease costs or increase profits somehow, some way. So just think about that. That's what I would add in your resume. Otherwise, it looks great. And you clearly have over like 3 or 4 years of experience. So I imagine if you get this into the right ATS system, even at a FAANG, they might give you a quick look. So thanks so much, Annette. I really appreciated this. All right, next we have Bhushan. Again, thank you so much for your resume. Just looking it over again, you did a great job in terms of like calling out the business impact in this case, right? Like you've actually bolded it, which I actually really like, and I might have to steal on my next resume because it really did draw my eyes to the exact things that you're trying to essentially draw my eyes to. Like, I was drawn to Python SQL and the various business impacts, and it was very helpful, made me, my lazy self, be able to skim read this very quickly. So I imagine this is great for a recruiter. The one thing I would say is you've got I think all the right content here. I think you could just polish up your resume just a bit. I have a pretty basic resume that you could maybe copy, which I'll link below, just to kind of fill this in better. Again, I don't think my resume in any way is like a gold standard. I just think it is a good baseline, right? Like I think Annette's was definitely a little cleaner and definitely a little crisper looking than mine, but I think mine will for sure go through an ATS without getting funked up by all of the various formatting. So I think you just need to step up the polish a little more on how this looks. But overall, again, I think the content is great. I will say the one thing I did notice was scrolling to the bottom, you reference academic projects, which you've done a few internships. So I imagine you have a lot more intern projects that would be more interesting to talk about. And I know you probably talk a little bit about some of that and underneath your experience for each of the jobs. But personally, I think if you can talk a lot more about your practical projects rather than your academic projects, that will go a lot farther, right? When you think about it, like academic projects, everyone that was probably in your class did some similar stuff. In fact, the next resume you'll see also did some sort of Airbnb project, also from another Texas school. So I think in order to stand out more, you should probably focus more on your real life projects and not your school projects, especially since you have internships. Unless it really doesn't fill out the rest of your resume, then keep them in there. But if you can fill out the rest of your resume with real experiences, do that versus digging into this. All right, so next we have Sir John. Just right off the bat, looking at this resume, you have data science, data engineer, and data analytics. I would say pick one for each of the jobs that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a data engineering internship or job, do data engineer. If you're applying for data analyst, and data scientist. This just kind of looks unfocused, especially when your experience is first as a technical consultant and then kind of as a data science intern. So maybe you can fit all three, but at the same time, it really should be focused at the job that you're applying for. I would honestly recommend that most people have at least kind of a core data engineering resume and a core data science resume, if that's kind of your goal, where you're like trying to figure out which one you want to go towards. From there, I would say this resume looks pretty clean. You've, again, done something similar with technical skills. This is kind of nicely broken out. I generally like the lines just because it makes it easier for me on my eyes to see what your different sections are. I like that in your Oracle experience, you do kind of, again, go into that business impact. I don't know if you have anything to add to your data science intern position at Texas A&M. If you can add anything there, that'd be great, but it also looks like this might be more related to your master's degree. So you might not have like technical business impact. It might be focused more on research, which, is how that one goes. But again, if you can think about the impact that even that had, whether that was automating work to help reduce manual interactions, then that would be great. And then going down to the bottom, again, this is kind of what I meant comparing to my last resume, where again, this person was also doing an Airbnb style project, and why I would recommend, really business focused projects versus academic projects. Again, if that's all you have, put that in there. That's great. It's something to talk about. But if you have business projects, I would put that into your resume instead. But overall, this looks like a lot of fun projects. So I'm sure you learned a lot in them, and hopefully you can talk to them when you go interviewing. I am curious, where are you currently looking to interview? Both everyone that I'm reviewing right now, as well as you guys listening, watching this video. Let me know where you're planning to interview and if I can give you any tips throughout that process. Next, we have Glenn, arguably the most sparse resume, but yet the most experienced. So I think that's my one big comment here, and I think you referenced that in your email. It's like, there's just so much more you can fill out here. You've got way more experience than I do. Clearly, you've done a ton in software development as well as analytics and database management. You've been an engineering manager. So I'm really curious kind of what your goal is with this resume. If you just want me to look at it, because, just looking at it, again, you've got great experience. You've worked at Expedia for a long period of time and really just taken on a ton of different roles there. So I just would love to hear more about that and the business impact that you had there. Again, because you really only reference some of your business impact very lightly, which I'm sure, if you were an engineering manager at Expedia, there's probably tons of business impact that you had over 6 years. I mean, that alone, I'm sure covers a vast amount of projects and ways that you've either saved the company money, automated processes that I would love to hear about in this resume. And you're also a product manager and a development lead. So it means you're not even focused on just, engineering or management. You're also very clearly capable at developing and clearly capable at understanding product. So there's just so much here that I wish I could know about you, Glenn, that you didn't really cover. So I'm really curious what your goal is. I do see that you only recently got a bachelor's degree in analytics in the last few years. So maybe that's what your thinking is here. Like maybe you're trying to grow somewhere else, maybe more data engineering wise. But to me, it's like you have enough experience. You've been doing enough ETL development, it looks like, for the last decade plus to where you should be fine in going into it. The hard part for you, I think, which is the one thing we talk about a lot, I think, in the tech industry, which is a lot of interviews tend to be sort of ageist on accident or maybe on purpose. I don't know. They often ask questions that are focused on like data structure and algorithms and other things that are very fresh in the mind of people who just graduated, but might not be for someone who's been a manager for the last 10 to 20 years, right? Like, 'cause that's been your focus, I imagine. So maybe you haven't been as focused on DS and A. And so if you want to take more of a data engineering or software engineering position at a FAANG company, these might be a little more difficult. Again, I have no idea. Like, I forgot basic geometry when I took the GRE. So it's one of those things that's like, it only takes a few years of you not doing a skill for you to suddenly forget a lot of the very basic concepts there. But for all I know, you've been practicing every day on HackerRank or LeetCode, so you might be an expert. But I'm curious, what's your goal here? Because again, looking at your resume, there's a ton of places that you just need to fill out, and I'm sure you'll have people knocking on your door looking to lead projects, but let me know. So before I finish these last two resumes, I just want to say thank you again to everyone who has subscribed or liked a video or commented or anything. It really does mean a lot to me. I'm sure it means something to the YouTube algorithm, but to me personally, it means a lot. I really love responding to your comments. I love providing advice. Thank you so much. And again, if you could just do me a favor of liking this video and putting a comment below if you've got anything to add, it does mean a lot. And it does tell the YouTube algorithm that, hey, these videos are worth watching. So thank you so much. Now back to the last two resumes. All right, so now we have Sebastian, and it's another Seattleite. So we had two people from Texas, two people from Seattle, my hometown, or at least it looks like you moved there because you went to Kansas for school, and you were more of an EE, which I would consider more of a real engineer than my data engineering. I am engineer by title only. You are a real engineer. And just even looking at your experience, it looks like that's what you've been doing. Controls engineer. And I think below that, what did you do before that? Electrical engineer at TerraFarm. So yeah, you've been doing a lot of what I would consider, again, real engineering. So good for you. My guess is you might want to switch into data engineering because sadly, guys, I don't know why, but for some reason, real engineering does not tend to make as much as data engineering. My cousin, who essentially makes sure planes don't fall out of the sky, for some reason makes somewhere in the range of half of what I do. And it's honestly silly when you think about the difference in our work. Just looking at your resume, it always gives me that question, like, is it better to have a very tight resume that's very tall, or in yours, you've got two columns? It looks nice and neat, but I'm just always curious, like, what works better for ATS? Again, that's always my question. But overall, again, very easy for me to look at as a human. I do see that you've got PLC here referenced, but it would be cool if you had other more practical experience referenced in terms of like Python or some other coding, even if it was just in a project, just because recruiters have no idea probably what PLC is. So it would be great in that regard. You do reference some business impact here, which it's funny. It says packaging lines in Frito-Lay's plants. So you help make chips go faster. That's actually kind of cool. That makes me think I had a professor in college who talked about he worked at Procter & Gamble, and that was something he did, was increase the speed for loading detergent, which is just like, it's those things that like people don't understand actually go on, where there are engineers who literally are sitting around trying to focus on increasing the speed of how fast something can get loaded into like a bag. It's fascinating, if you've ever watched any of those videos, like how they make, I don't know, cheesecake or something, to think of all the actual engineering that goes into these processes to make millions of pounds of cheesecake every year efficiently. Whenever you see that whole process flow, it's like, wow, this is, again, some real engineering, but it's all focused on like, again, giving me a bag of chips. So kind of cool. I find this really awesome. So overall, I think the biggest challenge you're going to run into is kind of just transferring over that knowledge and proving to people that it can transfer. I think it obviously can. I think if you get some projects in here, which it looks like you do have, like a Spotify pipeline, you'll eventually find the right job. I'd keep going at it. Worst comes to worst for you, maybe go more data analyst that's heavily focused on ETLs, or especially now that we're doing this reshuffling, it might be the time to really send out those resumes. Just because people are going to be looking for bodies, or should I actually say minds? It's more like people are looking for minds, less butts and seats, and more about the mind that can actually handle these problems. So yeah, I think overall this looks great. I think you've covered a lot about the business impact. If you maybe have a little more, that's great. I think the other biggest challenge is you still just need more years of experience for companies that are like FAANGs to really be interested in you, but I would still apply. Now to end it all, we have Yashwant. The one thing I would just say right off the bat, your name is huge on this. maybe make it a little smaller. I don't know if that's just how it is where you're at, but personally, that's a really big name. Maybe just shrink this down. Yeah, even something like 24, your name is still huge, right? So yeah, maybe shrink this down. The other thing I noticed that was kind of interesting to me was skills. You had primary skills and secondary skills. Again, I don't know if that's just how it is where you're at, but personally, just put skills. Like it's like people who end up putting like rankings for their coding or technical abilities. It's like, don't do that. Like, how do you even know what are you ranking it against? And why would you ever tell anyone like, oh, I'm like not that great on a skill? Just tell people you have that skill. You'll learn the rest on the way. So don't give yourself like secondary first skills. Like it's all your skills. You've learned it, you've worked with it. It's all your skills, whether you use it a lot or a little. I still put Java on my resume and I haven't used it for 3 years, but I know if I needed to, I could pick it up, in a few weeks, just re-looking through some books. So don't put primary, secondary. I don't think it really drives anything. Similar with like hobbies, you put in hobbies, which I don't know if you need. Personally, I know that some people put it there, but you've got enough business experience that you don't need to fill up space. Like often I think people put hobbies when they've got no experience. That was like my first resume. You put like things that you're interested in, the classes you're taking. But clearly you have enough experience to where you don't necessarily need to reference hobbies. Also, speaking of years of experience, like I don't think there's any reason to reference like how many years of experience you have per technical thing. At least, again, that's just my perspective. Like, do you need to have experience 2 years as your data engineer? If you've done that, maybe break it out into 2 different sections where you have your senior technical analyst and then data engineer in 2 different sections. And like most engineers and most everyone else that I've reviewed, include business impact. That's always going to be important. If you're going to apply for Amazon, that's what they're going to ask of you. And even if you apply to somewhere else like Facebook or Netflix, they'll always ask about, why did you do this work? What was the reasoning? They always ask about like prioritization. So you need to start thinking about, why the work you were doing was important, because that really drives their leveling. So they'll level you based on how you talk and how you reference your impact and how you reference prioritization and how you understand how to do all of that. And so that starts with your resume. So just put that in there as well. Also, just again, re-looking at this, you can probably put skills all in one line here. Like you've got all this in really large kind of sections. If you saw the other people, they kind of had it nice and grouped where they covered probably more skills than you have covered here, but they either shrunk it down, they had it very neatly referenced like technical skills, analytical skills, and it was like very neat and bolted. The other section I might cut as well is strengths and what I expect. Again, it personally doesn't provide anything. If that's what's normal, then do it. But personally, I don't think it provides any value. And just overall, again, you really focus on what you did and not really, again, why you did it. So just think about that as well. Don't just talk about these exact like tasks you were finishing. Talk about the project, talk about the impact that it had and the role that you had in driving that impact. That's what companies really care about, especially when you're talking about like high level technical companies. They want to see that you not only think about the tech side, but also the business side. It's very hard to do, but it's what they expect. All right, so that was all the resumes. You'll probably notice there was a common theme of not talking about business impact. And that's just something I think us engineers make the mistake of doing, because for us, the focus and the challenge is always solving the technical issue. And it's not really very focused on the business impact. But I think it's very important that you think about that, because that's what you're going to get asked at interviews at companies that you're probably going to want to work at. They're going to want to know a lot more than just what you can solve. They're going to want to know if you know how to drive projects, if you know how to do the right projects, because at the end of the day, there's just endless projects to do. So if you can drive some of those decisions as well, they're going to be very happy with you. With that, guys, let's rock it on 10K and we'll see what I can do then. Maybe I can get someone to give you a giveaway. I'm trying to talk to some program like Azure or someone just to like notice me. So I can maybe give something away, like a certification course or something, just so I can say thank you again for you guys, my audience, because I'm really trying to just build this community that's focused on data, focused on learning, focused on maybe building your own consulting company. I have so much that I want to talk about. I really wish I had more time, but for now, I have a day job and I also do consulting. So thanks so much for watching another exhausted video from me, Ben Rogejon, the Seattle Data Guy, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.